Hi, my name's Angela Casey and welcome to Edinburgh Outdoors, the podcast that explores Edinburgh's green spaces and the people in them. And I've come out of Edinburgh, not too far, near Cockburnspath, and I'm going to visit Siccar Point and find out more about James Hutton and particularly about crowdfunding. And I'm here with podcast favourite, Angus Miller. Hi Angus, and welcome to Edinburgh Outdoors again.
Good afternoon, nice to be here. It's one of these beautiful, beautiful days to be out, so it's an absolute pleasure.
Yeah, it's fantastic. The weather's really nice. And we have the other podcast favourite with us today. We've got Roxy again, your dog.
Yes, this is becoming a favourite spot of hers, so we are spending a lot of time down here this year because of the Deep Time Trail project.
So we went out before and we went up Salisbury Crags and we also went to the James Hutton Memorial Garden, and this spot is very much a James Hutton space. So for those who maybe haven't listened to that previous podcast or have forgotten, could you give us a quick recap about James Hutton and then tell us why this is a significant place?
Yes, James Hutton really should be better known by Edinburgh folk. Next year will be 300 years since his birth, so that's a nice opportunity just to raise awareness of a really interesting character. So he's born in Edinburgh, 1726. He goes to Edinburgh University, then picks up a medical degree studying in Paris and then Leiden University in the Netherlands. So he's a medical doctor, but instead of coming back to Edinburgh to practice, something goes slightly awry in his life. We don't really know exactly what was going on, but he spends some time getting distracted and then takes up the family farms in this area.
He farmed down here?
Yes, he would have known these soils very well. We're walking along the edge of this arable field just beside the North Sea, and this is a landscape that he was very familiar with. Very innovative. People may be aware of the James Hutton Institute, which is the Scottish Government's agricultural research, and they've taken his name because of recognising the importance of his work in subjects like improving the land and drainage and animal husbandry. Really far-reaching ideas. He experimented practically, but he also looked at the landscape with a theoretical eye. So, really interesting character. So, we're working on a project to bring Siccar Point to better awareness of people locally and visitors. And it's got a really important story to do with geology, but the other thing that I'm really keen on is this part of the coastline is really beautiful.
It is really beautiful.
Yeah. So the A1 and the East Coast Main Line are just across there, but they go inland.
Yeah.
And from here to St Abbs, you've actually got quite a bit of coastline. Beautiful cliff scenery, and we're right next to the sea. So it's not just about this interesting historical character and what he found here, but it's also, encouraging people. I think we've got a tendency to head north for the hills.
Yes.
From Edinburgh.
Well, we all do that, but at the same time, this is a great bit of coastline. I've walked some of it, and it's really nice. So he was out farming here, and then why is this a significant place?
So he's a successful farmer. He turns the farms into profitable enterprises and moves back to Edinburgh, really retires early. So this is round about 1768. So he's still only 40 and he's got 30 years ahead of him where he's based in Edinburgh, and he gets involved in all sorts of things. He's a meteorologist, he's a philosopher, he's a founder of the Royal Society of Edinburgh. He invests with his friends in a chemical manufacturing outfit where they take chimney soot and create this useful chemical sal ammoniac. He's a trustee of the Forth and Clyde Canal. So, just really interesting, varied work. And we know a little bit about him from his biographer, his friend John Playfair, and you get this idea of a very vivacious man, fascinated in this wide range of subjects. He lights up every room with conversation. So really very much at the heart of the Enlightenment and rubbing shoulders with all the other characters of the Enlightenment. And he's best known as the father of geology.
Yes.
From his time as a farmer, and even maybe going back to his time as a medical student. He's thinking about this ongoing processes of regeneration. And he starts thinking about that on a landscape scale. Because all farmers know that their soil washes away. And he's a man of simple questions. You know, if your soil washes away, how come you still get any left? How come it's not all gone? And if we dig a hole in this field, we'd discover the soil is being regenerated by the breakdown of rock underneath. So gradually the soil gets replaced. But he takes it further and he says, how come the rock's still there? How come the rock hasn't all disappeared? How come this land hasn't all washed away over time? And so he develops this amazing big theory of the earth. This is all part of a system. The soil and the sediment getting washed into the North Sea here. It's new layers of sediment forming gradually, slowly, new rock. And to complete the cycle, he needs to find a mechanism where the seabed will every so often get uplifted to form new rock, new land, which will get washed away in turn. So that's his big idea.
It's a pretty good big idea, isn't it?
It's a huge idea. And all from thinking and observation of the soil and the erosion of the coast. And thinking about how it fits together. So he looks to the rocks to find evidence of this process going on. And that's where Siccar Point comes in. So he travels all over south of Scotland, goes up to the Highlands. He really liked the island of Arran. He got a lot of great inspiration from the rocks there. So one of his big discoveries was the nature of granite. We're familiar with granite in Scotland and building in Aberdeen and the Cairngorm Mountains. People had assumed that there was granite everywhere and it was a primeval layer. Hutton says it's not the first thing forming the layer at the bottom, it's actually the last rock to form. And that's what he also showed at Salisbury Cracks, and this whole nature of magma and intrusion of magma into existing rocks and the formation of igneous rocks. So he links that with his big picture and thinking that the Earth's internal heat and the production of magma is all part of the story of uplift to make new land that will in turn be eroded away again. He connects these two big areas of geology and he correctly understands both the nature of igneous rock and the nature of sedimentary rock. And
he's just walking around somewhere thinking this,
yes.
Isn't it?
Especially because he was an ill man, he had bladder stones. Oh yes. And even just to make the men cringe even further, he spent most of the last 20 years of his life with a catheter through the wall of his abdomen into his bladder. He wrote screeds and screeds, thousands of pages talking about all these different subjects. And
most people would just curl up in bed and cry.
Yes.
So that's pretty. That is pretty amazing. He was using it as a distraction. Can I just say, it's a geology question. Looking along here, all these rocks are this red, and then we've got this grey rock that all these walls are built on. Do you think they brought the rock from somewhere else?
Well, see, that's what I love about walking around with people like you, because that's exactly what Hutton saw.
Right.
And that's why he came here.
Right.
Yeah, so that observation of the landscape he was in. We take this all for granted, but people like you and people like him think, I wonder why that is. So the red rocks in the distance, we're looking back towards Torness and down into the central belt of Scotland and all that lovely limestone and coal and sandstone. That's all the younger rocks. But what James Hutton realised, having farmed in the southern uplands, is the rocks in the southern uplands are different and they're older. And so he wanted to find the junction between these two great sets of rocks and to explore it and understand what it told him about the processes. And a lot of people didn't really grasp the enormity of what he was talking about and is accused of being a bit theoretical. And so he came here in 1788. He's seen what you've seen, the difference in the rocks. Maybe he'd been out looking at the rocks. Now we're coming up to top of the ridge. And Siccar Point's now coming into sight.
So he's looking at the different rocks in the same place.
Yes, and wants to see how they relate to each other. So they set out by boat, June 1788, sailed down here. So they brought the boat in and they jumped out and they were able to walk on the rock surface and close up, hands-on exploration. And you can see the grey layers of the older rock, the grey wacky, which has been contorted and turned up an end, and so you've got these vertical layers, and then plastered over it is the old red sandstone which accumulated later. So particularly this rocky bit in the middle, that's where James Hutton and James Hall and John Playfair went. And John Playfair talks about Hutton sort of dancing around in the rocks and being really excited. It is a supreme geological site. It's a beautiful site. It's a great example for Hutton of his ideas as they were in the 1780s. The theories have developed a lot since then. But that basic principle, you've got the old rock underneath and new rock on top. But he can show in this sequence this process of deformation of the older rocks. So he links that with, the creation of new land surfaces. So he can show his cycle of activity. It's not just simply that the sea used to be a bit higher and some sediment get deposited here. It's a much bigger story. And that's what he was tapping into. And he was very good at finding these clear examples where people would say, oh, okay, and see what you mean. And without them, possibly his ideas would have been lost entirely. But when he writes things down, he goes off around in circles and he quotes a lot of French and brings in lots of different philosophical ideas, and you sometimes say, come on James, just state it clearly. And Playfair was good at that. And Playfair really keeps that flame burning. And the ideas pass eventually on to Charles Lyell, who's well known in Britain as the clear geological understanding and publication of textbooks, and a good friend of Charles Darwin. So, all this is crucial for evolution. So Hutton's discovery here is really important. People come from all over the world because James Hutton's name's better known abroad than it is at home. This is a site of pilgrimage. I've brought a lot of visitors here, and people that first heard the story in high school or studied it at university, and they might have been a geologist all their life, but to come to Siccar Point is really this sort of sense of pilgrimage. If people have got time, a really nice way to do it, which is to start from Cockburnspath, and you follow the part of the Southern Upland Way and then onto the Berwickshire Coastal Path. It's a beautiful walk. You're coming along the top of the cliffs. Pease Bay caravan site's got a little shop and toilets and refreshments, so it's a great sort of stop along the way, and it takes a couple of hours to walk along here.
It seems like an amazing place today because of the weather. All the cliffs are so sharp coming down, and because of the autumn sun there's this sort of shadow, and then the sun on the waves coming into the red rock. It's making such a big contrast.
Yes.
It's extraordinary then looking back to Edinburgh with Bass Rock sticking out and Dunbar and the hills in the background.
It's a natural site, and what we're doing in developing the Deep Time Trail is very much to retain the essence of that experience. It's never going to be coach loads of visitors on the main tourist trail, but it's part of saying to people there's more to Scotland than zipping up to the shores of Loch Ness and back in a day and spending all your time in Edinburgh. Very close to Edinburgh, there's this wonderful area of culture. So there's a lot goes on here, from here into the border. It ties in nicely with the south of Scotland, and encouraging people just to pay a bit more attention to the coast, places like St Abbs Head and some of the fishing towns along here. There's accommodation, there's good food, there's nice days out, and so Siccar Point's adding to that portfolio, encouraging people to get away a bit from the more crowded areas of Scotland elsewhere. Lots of good walking.
It's very peaceful,
isn't it?
It's really peaceful. Roxy's having an amazing time because she's just rolling in the grass the whole time.
The intention of the work that the Edinburgh Geological Society is doing is really to make it easier to find and to understand. So coming out here to the viewpoint, learning a little bit about James Hutton and how this landscape was so important in developing his ideas, and then get to this headland and get the view down to the famous rocks. So we're going to build a stone circular, almost like a sheep stele here, which will just kind of gather people in. And there'll be information, there'll be QR codes so people can access online material. But the main thing is to just encourage them to come here and to look down the slope and see the rocks. And to understand why it's so important, and to reflect on this one man and what he saw, but also what this tells us about the planet. So it's a gigantic place in our understanding of earth processes and time. And even if people think they're not interested in the rock story, it's a place to explore.
You could just stand here and enjoy the view, because it is beautiful.
Yeah, and the bird life.
We've got the sandstone and you've got the older rock, but some bits, the older rock's exposed. Do we think the sandstone was over the top of all of it?
That's right, and piled up in a vast amount, because the red sandstone is 380 million years old. So, there's been a lot of time since it formed, and it's only still here because there was a lot more of it. But it's just eroded away. Like you say, you can still see a patch left, but you've got the older rocks underneath as well. So it's a beautiful example of an angular unconformity.
So the plan, well, actually, first off, tell me who is behind the plan.
So I'm working for the Edinburgh Geological Society on this project, and we've got the support of a wide range of other organisations in Scotland. Very importantly, the volunteers at the Scottish Geology Trust, who are organising the crowdfunder, and also the James Hutton Institute, which we mentioned before. Very supportive and very keen that James Hutton's name should be better known coming up to the Tercentenary year. So these group of organisations that feel that Siccar Point's such an important site, and we've managed fine walking out today. The path's reasonable, but people, aren't quite sure where to go.
It's not signposted at all, is it really?
No, and also there's a couple of existing boards that have been here for about 10 years, and they're good, they tell the story, but that's just a brief overview. And what we want to do is to have people come along, know they're going to the right place, find it easily, but also get more of a sense of just who James Hutton was and why this was important.
So I guess a lot of the people who come here are going to be either keen amateurs or, I'm just shutting the gate here, they're not even going to know what they're coming to see really, so interpretation is important.
Yes, absolutely.
Will there be a path here?
Not much more than there already is in terms of this quite level grassy path beside the field. We're talking to the land manager about fencing and the gates just to make it as accessible as possible. I think if the numbers of people were to increase a lot, then it would justify a better path surface. But for now, it's got this nice natural feel. And you could push a buggy along here without too much trouble. It's not fully accessible, but it's less than a mile from the car park. We'll have some benches for people to rest along the way as well. And geologists come here anyway. The focus really is on just making it easier for other folk to understand why it's so important and get that wider appreciation of James Hutton and his work. We're going to just have a starting point that takes people off the road and along the field margin past St Helen's Chapel, which in its own right is a really interesting little building, and then onto this coastal path. So it'll be an easy path to follow. There'll be signage, and also every so often you'll come to a section where the stone wall will be rebuilt with a little bit of information, but also we're embedding what the interpreters call story stones. So they're going to be stones engraved with quotations from James Hutton. Oh. So just little bits to read as you go along to help get us into the thinking of this great philosopher, get us back to the 1780s and imagine him and his excitement at finding this place.
So at the moment you're looking for crowdfunding, but you've also got other funding?
Yes, Edinburgh Geological Society is very firmly behind this proposal, putting money in. There's also some funding available locally from the Cockburnspath and Cove Community Fund, which comes from some of the wind farms. So there's various sources of funding, but the crowdfunder is really important just to get us started and to show the support for a project like this. So the money is important, but it's also just important to show that people think that this is a place with a story worth telling.
And it's quite a short window, the crowdfunding.
Yes, middle of October. Right. The whole thing's a short time scale. It's really ironic when we're talking about geological time that, really we want to get all this done by next May.
Yes, gosh.
Hutton's 300th birthday is early June next year.
You're the husband of the amateur geologist.
We were just talking to her.
Well, they might take me that far, but I won't get back.
It's a beautiful day. Oh, there's the kestrel up. beautiful spot. You enjoy sitting in the sun?
It's absolutely wonderful.
Yeah.
The thinking on the crowdfunding is to engage people and bring them into the idea and the project, is
Yep,
it?
that's right. And give us capital to support the other applications and persuade other funders that there's support for this. So
I quite like about the crowdfunding that people can donate and you've got some rewards.
yes, we have, and there's an amazing story very much connected with Hutton and his writing we were talking about earlier. He only published volumes 1 and 2 of Theory of the Earth. He needed 2 more volumes in preparation and the illustrations for them. And then he died, 1797, and the illustrations disappeared. And they resurfaced in 1968 in an attic found by the Clark family, because it was his Hutton's friend John Clark of Eldon that did most of the drawings.
Yeah.
So back in the 70s they produced these facsimile reproductions, beautiful, beautiful drawings, a really nice high quality paper, but they've really sat around for the last 50 years with not much interest being shown in them. So we have been donated this collection of the copies of the lost drawings from Sir Robert Clark, and they are beautiful things. So it's really it's an amazing opportunity to get hold of one of these 29 separate geological drawings of Scotland. Some of them are colour, watercolour sketches originally, copies of that. Some of them are pen and ink, some of them are engravings. And they show different aspects of Hutton's ideas. So there's some from Glentilt, there's several from Edinburgh and Salisbury Crags, there's one from here at Siccar Point.
If people want to look at them, they can look at the website.
The James Hutton website. And we've also got a public event at Dynamic Earth on the 6th of October, so that's Monday the 6th of October in the evening, where the lost drawings will be on display and people will be able to make a donation and pick them up. And that's the launch of the Tercentenary year. This event is coming up. We've got a panel of speakers and share with people about all the exciting things that are going on. There's a lot going to be going on in 2026. There will be a festival in June organised by the Scottish Geology Trust, and that coincides with his actual birthday. We're having a launch event for the Deep Time Trail and other projects in this area. There's a new cycle trail in development that will be happening at Cockburnspath at the end of May. There are at least 3 art exhibitions taking their inspiration from James Hutton. So there's a lot going on, and some commemorative whiskies. So some of the distilleries locally and in places like Arran with Hutton connections are going to be marking the event.
Was he a whiskey drinker, do we think?
He didn't drink wine, which is unusual for the time, but he certainly was a frequenter of pubs.
It does seem like a brilliant thing to do. Having come out here, I think giving that interpretation that takes you through a journey really helps you understand it, but at the same time it gives you a sense of that you're going somewhere, which is a really, really significant viewpoint. So in terms of the Tercentenary, but particularly at the moment about the crowdfunding, that people might want to find out more about it and support you, how do people find out more?
The central information website's james-hutton.org, and that's a good starting point. So there's some nice information there about Hutton himself, about sites like Siccar Point, about the plans for the Deep Time Trail. There's the copies of the lost drawings visible on that website. That's a good starting point. I work for the Edinburgh Geological Society, and we've got a lot of information online as well. And then our partners in the Scottish Geology Trust organising the crowdfunder. But it all links together, and the James Hutton Institute as well. There's plenty of information online, and people would really invite people to get in touch as well if they've got ideas about the Tercentenary, if they'd like to know more what's involved. There's a mailing list from the jameshutton.org website, so there's plenty of places to get information in, so we can do a bit more just to help Scotland be proud of our contribution to the understanding of the Earth. A lot of work in the next sort of 6 months or so.
Right, well I'll let you get on with it, and thank you very much.
Thank you.
Well, that was really interesting. I enjoyed that, and that was a fascinating insight into Siccar Point. And please go online and have a look at all that stuff, and if you feel like donating, that would be terrific. And thank you for listening to the podcast. If you've enjoyed it, please go online, write a review and rate it, and don't forget to tell others about it too. And if you know of an outdoor space in or around Edinburgh that might like to be featured, please get in touch.